Good afternoon, everybody. I'm quite nervous about this because I'm going to talk about some things that I'm not entirely sure how they're going to go down. But for the last 2 days, I've been wearing my strategist hat. I'm wearing my hat. It is a hat that I wear all the time. It's my thinking cap, and it's an emotional crutch, and it's better in strategy workshops than a teddy bear, I think. But for the last 2 days, I've been a strategist, and I've been talking about two things. On Tuesday, I spoke about purpose, what's our why, and why should anybody care about that, and what should it mean in the future, and why does it matter. Yesterday I spoke about change, and really that was covering off things like the old normal, new normal, and should there be a normal at all. But today, metaphorically, I'm wearing a different hat. I'm still wearing my hat, but I'm wearing a different one. Today I'm just Steve, and I'm just a guy. I'm a confused and scared bloke in a hat, and I'm a husband, and I'm a father of 5, and I'm a concerned son with a very old mum, and I'm a hopeless DIYer, and I'm a pretty good canoeist, and I'm a rubbish saxophone player who wants to be John Coltrane, and that's never going to happen. I'm also a lifelong fan of a hopeless football club, so there's a lot of hopelessness in my world. But I'm a voter, and I'm a donor, and I'm someone with dodgy knees, and someone that doesn't really understand beer, but I love Jack Daniels. And I'm someone who cries when I hear a great riff or a profound lyric. And recently I've become a volunteer, and I'm delivering food parcels for Sophia in the Chippy Larder. And importantly, and like every single person here now, I am a citizen. And like most people here, I'm a citizen of Oxfordshire. I'm not sure that everybody lives in Oxfordshire, but I am, and I'm a citizen of Oxfordshire. And I'm really concerned. And I'm really concerned because I'm passionate about Oxfordshire. And even though I wasn't born here, I've lived here now for half my life. And that's quite a long time when you reach my age. And I'm concerned because Oxfordshire is my county, and my county is me. And in no small measure, the way that I am as a person, and the way hopefully that all of us are as people, is profoundly affected by the place that I live in. And in this instance, I'm talking about the county. And my county, in no small part, defines me. And as a concerned citizen, I want to help define my county. And when I look at my county, and as some of you who know me will know, I've been scouting around Oxfordshire now for some time, having a sort of close look at it on my own. I see what everybody else chooses to see. I see world-beating science and beautiful buildings and villages and gorgeous countryside and innovation beyond the dreams of avarice and wonderful businesses. Everybody here the last 3 days has been amazing. And incredible centres of educational excellence. And I see money, and I see ego and huge intellect and worldliness. And I see a thriving music scene. And I could go on forever just talking about all those wonderful things. But I also see what lots of other people see, but not everyone. And I see things that other people see if they choose to open their eyes to these things. I see massive deprivation and huge inequality in almost everything and in every way. I see poverty and no or underrepresentation. I see a lack of agency, apathy. I see vested interests all over the place, and the list goes on and on and on. And I see vast swathes of people who celebrate the former, but they don't really recognise that the latter even exists. They go like that, la la la. And I see many people who devote their lives to resolving the latter, but they never gain entry, possibly don't want entry, to the former. And I see that as being really bad. There's something fundamentally wrong there. But I see other things too, and maybe this is where the sort of bloke called Steve meets the strategist also called Steve. I see loads of visions for the future of Oxfordshire all over the place. There are tons of them, but I don't see a vision. And I see thousands of awesome organisations in every part of the county, but I see little or no organisation for the county as a whole. And I see wonderful leaders. There are many, many awesome people doing wonderful things in leadership roles, but I see no county leadership. And I see many strategies, but no strategy. And I see thousands of tactical initiatives that of themselves are great, but they seem to crash into each other. And tactical initiatives that crash into each other rarely work. So I have got some notes here, so I am going to read off them. And I see many plans and programs, but I don't see a plan. And I see and hear thousands of sexy names and positionings and messages and talks and discussions, and they all create confusing white noise for me. And maybe it's just me, but they seem to just create white noise, and they trip each other up. But I don't see very much cohesive communication. And I see many wonderful ambitions all over our county, but I don't see an ambition. Note the difference between multiple and singular. And I see unbelievable industry and creativity and problem solving all over the place, and particularly now, of course, mountains of wonderful work going on all over the place. But I also see massive gaps, and I see huge duplication of efforts. And I see dozens of communities, and some of those communities are geographic across the county, but also communities born out of functions. So things like business communities, B4 is obviously representative of that, charity communities, governance, all sorts of things, but no sense of community in a truly sort of county-wide way. I see no indication of our unique binding and common society in Oxfordshire. I see tons of purposeful intent and action, and purpose is at the centre of my world, really. But I don't see any actual sense of common purpose. It's a similar thing to vision. And I don't see, as Jane Woodley rightly talks about a lot, is joining of the dots. I don't see a joined up singular approach to common good. And if it's common, then it must be singular, because that's everybody, that's all of us as citizens. And I see massive wastage of time and resource and treasure and opportunity and all sorts of things. And as a concerned citizen, despite my pride in being part of Oxfordshire Society, I'm massively proud of being part of Oxfordshire. I don't think that any of this is good enough, and I'm actually a little bit ashamed. The more I've realised and understood, the more I feel a bit ashamed of this. And I believe, rightly or wrongly, that if anywhere, if anyone can lead systemic social change, change that is now abundantly and clearly necessary and that will benefit everyone, even if they think they don't need it, they would benefit from it, it is us, we, all of us, the concerned citizens of Oxfordshire, with all of our capability and all of our skill, and so say intellect, so say treasure if it exists, and good intent, we're the people to do it. And I think we can really become well known and famous worldwide, not just in our own county or in the UK, but worldwide for this. But systemic change, and that's really what we're talking about. Systemic change requires collective will and elements of bravery, and I've talked and written about that, and a lot of magnanimity, and a lot of letting go of egos and ownership and desire for glory and self-gratification, all that stuff. And it requires real vision, and it requires a binding and a highly inclusive vision of what this county could really be, what it could really mean, in a complete and common way. And we could be a world leader in how to construct the type of future that more and more people in the world, and definitely in the UK, now need and now want. And there is an opportunity for that. And it requires a genuine sense of common purpose, an oft-used phrase, but I think this is for real. I think common purpose has been talked about long enough. I think it's about time to actually make it happen. And I mean literally and mutually and inclusively, again, other words that are used a lot. And to achieve this requires breaking out of our comfort zones and our confirmation biases and traditional beliefs. And it requires true and complete coordination and a breaking down of current boundaries and silos. I have talked in the past that I think Oxfordshire is like any massive global enterprise organisation, the type of organisation I spend a lot of time working with. And I see exactly the same structures, albeit with different circumstances, but exactly the same issues and structures and silos and all that stuff as I see in any major organisation. So we've got to break down all that stuff, but we've got to do it really. And I don't think we can do it in little pockets with people dealing with one area of the county and having that as their kind of community without truly crossing boundaries. Lots of connections all over the place, but not really breaking these things down. And I think this now requires enormous effort. Obviously, it requires enormous effort. And I believe there needs to be a mechanism, not multiple mechanisms, put in place to make that possible. And most importantly, I think what it and what we now need is an acceptance that no one body within the county, and I've said this before, is a combination of big enough or impartial enough or liberated enough to achieve this on their own. But we can do it together. because between us, we are big enough and impartial enough and liberated enough. And if we can do that, and if we can genuinely work out the right mechanisms and create the right structures and strip out massive complexities and really collaborate, then we can create the sweet spot. If you think of those three things, big enough, liberated enough, and impartial enough, as a Venn diagram, we can hit that sweet spot and we can actually make it happen. We really can. We can genuinely do it. Systemic change has been discussed in the margins and specifically around systemic social change, but I think it applies to all sorts of things. Business change, I spend a lot of time talking about systemic business change, changing hierarchical structures and binary systems and things like that. But undeniably, the last few months has given us an absolutely gilt-edged reason to turn philosophical debates and potentially idealism, and I'm not going to apologise for being an idealist, into interdependence and tangible and actionable progress. I see thousands of blockers and barriers and probably a lot of resistance. Maybe some people listening to this now are thinking, and want to throw tomatoes at me. That's absolutely fine. But I think, and here is the punchline, we as concerned Oxfordshire citizens should try anyway, because I said in a piece that I wrote recently, fear is something that we can overcome, but regret lasts forever. You can never get rid of that. You can never undo it. And I don't want to be a part of an Oxfordshire community or society with all of the things that we've got going on in it that ends up regretting an opportunity to move itself forward, create systemic change, do that in a really collaborative way with a vision, singular thinking about vision, strategy, and all that good stuff. I think we would regret the day that we didn't let that happen, didn't make it happen. And I think it is incumbent on all of us, anyone that is a human being, that is a citizen of Oxfordshire, to at least try. And I'm going to do that. I haven't figured out exactly how or who with, but I'm going to make that happen. I can't achieve the effects that I want to achieve and the changes that I want to see happen in my own county on my own, but I'm really going to try.